I remember we arrived on a boat called the SS Olympic. And so we steamed into New York. We were on the deck, and I was wearing a little coat and hat for the occasion. Actually, I remember coming by the Statue of Liberty and being shown that was the Statue of Liberty. It was illuminated. And many years later, I got an award when the Statue of Liberty was re-illuminated. It was rededicated. It was the centennial of the Statue of Liberty. And I remembered looking out from Governor's Island to the Statue of Liberty and seeing this flame come up. I remembered that night again, of course. I think my parents thought I would probably study something in the area of the humanities. I was clearly not a scientist, and I had a great deal of trouble with my required course in Biology 101. That, in fact, though I had imagined I would study English and probably become a writer or something of this kind, that history was what I really found most interesting. And I had a sort of epiphany one night when I went to the college library, and there was something about the atmosphere and the way in which the library projected itself on one, that is, with its sort of creaking wooden stairs, a certain musty smell of books, a certain kind of lighting. And I thought I could really be happy doing this every night of my life. And I was on my way to get my history assignment done. And so they all came together. Well, when I was president, was interviewed by the New York Times, I said, and they published this, that I thought I was the only university president in the country who did not know that the football coach had left until my Christmas card came back, and it had a big stamp on it saying, "Moved, left no forwarding address." And after the New York Times published this, I was suddenly besieged by letters from alumni saying, "What are you doing playing football?" Because they always thought of that as the camel's nose under the tent. Our Division III league is the right one for us, with other institutions that take a similar attitude toward athletics, and that we're therefore not making that a huge priority, either in the way in which we present ourselves or think about ourselves, or in the way in which we relate to our alumni, or in the way in which we think we need to relate to the world. And I wish that other institutions had the same freedom. I always loved the Convocations in Rockefeller Chapel. It was, of course, the first time that any student had ever heard the alma mater, which I always rather enjoyed, seeing their surprise that there even was one. But there was a kind of dignity and beauty about the ceremony of graduation itself that I always enjoyed and always felt that it was such a happy occasion. Now, I presided over, I think, 115 convocations. Oddly enough, I not only survived 115 or whatever it was, maybe 120 convocations, but each time I saw that student in front of me to whom I was going to hand a degree, it was a joyful occasion. I liked that. Well, I'm not a fan of the portrait. I feel it makes me look meaner than I am. I certainly appreciate the fact that the trustees at the time thought that they would get a good modern artist to paint a portrait and that they were willing to support that. Unfortunately, the artist they got is a man who particularly likes to paint nudes, and that was not the task here. And then, of course, it stood out in that room in the most terrible way. I mean, there was only one woman's portrait on the wall to start with, but because he wanted me in my red gown and all the rest, it just stands out. And so it was kidnapped twice, and I thought it was a pity it was recovered. And I think it's now so wired up that you'd probably be electrocuted if you got too close. Well, I would hope that the university can retain its particular character, understanding that there are always going to be changes. And I hope that the university will always be ready to take some risks in deciding which of those are important and how to build them. We'll always be willing also to decide when an experiment has not worked and be willing to eliminate what is no longer of intellectual relevance, and be willing to take high flyers on unusual people and give them a lot of freedom to create, both students and faculty, and in that way to maintain the priority of the life of the mind as its ultimate purpose in whatever are the right ways that time will bring.